Hello and welcome back to Exothermic Plays Games. I'm Exothermic and the date today is Saturday, September 28th, 2024. I've been doing a countdown of my favorite video games of all time through each day of the year, and coming in at number 95 is League of Legends. There's a lot to unpack in League of Legends. The game has changed a whole lot over the years, and it comes with a ton of baggage. League originally released in October of 2009, but I first learned about it when Total Biscuit released his WTF Is video for it in December of 2010, as did many other people. Since then, the game has undergone a plethora of changes, and it's pretty much unrecognizable when you put the game back then next to the game today. Obviously, this footage is of the game today, and very thankfully, you can, by default, turn off chat. Because, oh man, I know I suck at this game. I don't need everyone else telling me. And this is where I need to include an important disclaimer. I very much enjoyed League in 2011 and 2012-ish, and while I do appreciate many of the improvements and new characters since then, I think overall I preferred the game as it was before. But also important, while I really liked it, I didn't, love it. I played it very casually and almost exclusively with my brothers, who liked it a lot more than I did. As I mentioned in my Dota 2 video, casually is how I prefer to enjoy MOBAs, and while there are a lot of options for things to do in the game now, on average, the designs are geared more towards competitive than I think they used to be. After my brothers got out of it in 2013-ish, I played significantly less and have probably played, I would guess, less than 20 games in the last decade, though I'll admit they have been fun. Also, getting this out of the way up front, I've never played Teamfight Tactics, but given that it's an auto-battler and from what little else I've looked at for it, I assume I would feel similarly to Hearthstone's Battlegrounds mode. I'll save my breath here, but I ranked Hearthstone just the other day as my 97th favorite game, but Battlegrounds was not the reason. Okay, now that that's all out of the way, I can talk about the actual game. Like in most MOBAs, you have a 3-lane map lined with defensive turrets, and minions march down, and a jungle filled with monsters. You kill stuff to get money, which you spend on items, and leveling up your character allows you to unlock and upgrade your abilities throughout the course of the game. There's a massive roster of characters, so many, but I'm familiar with probably less than half of them. When I first played the game, I gravitated towards Veigar, because I love a tiny little glass cannon spellcaster dude. His Q ability shoots an arcane blast or something at people, which does a small splash zone when it hits. His W drops a literal meteor on an area, and his E creates a fenced-in energy zone that stuns anyone that touches the edges. This is great for pairing with his first two abilities, because it gets to be a lot easier to aim when people can't really, move. While these other abilities can generate some really good single target bursts, they're really great at fighting groups of enemies, and Veigar can clear minion lanes by himself in a matter of seconds, making him a very good solo laner. Where his real oomph comes in is in his ultimate ability, which just blasts one person really hard with magic damage, and it does even more damage based on the percentage of health they're missing, allowing you to really combo off. Especially late game once you have a lot of items boosting your ability power, including Rabadon's Death Cap, a cool wizard's hat that also increases all of your other sources of ability power. You just start blasting. At some point, I wanted to branch out from Veigar, and I started playing Heimerdinger, because I thought the idea of being able to place my own turrets was really cool. And it is. But Heimerdinger sucks. He's really great when people fight you in the zone of your turrets because they just kind of die. So he's fun for casual play against bots because they're dumb. But ultimately, most actual players can and will just ignore you. The rockets can do a whole lot though if you build for that and land your skill shot really well so they all hit someone at the same time with your grenade, but he doesn't do much outside of that. Importantly, Heimerdinger helped me realize something, and it was that I definitely didn't want to play these games competitively. As I started playing more against other players, and I would play squishy characters that got focused down, I tried some supporting tanks, like Amumu, the very sad mummy. I love Amumu. He's so cute and so sad. But then I would run into situations where I was terrible at being at the right place at the right times. I'd get ganked, I'd miss out on team fights, and things were going really bad. As I mentioned, I'm not good at the game. So that eventually led me discovering the role I do like in League of Legends: support. I tried Soraka, I tried Zilean, who is really cool thematically, but too squishy for my liking, and eventually I tried Sona, who I almost exclusively played forever after. She's an extremely flexible character, and for the most part, I need to make a buddy and never leave my buddy. Her abilities are all using different musical chords to do different things, and creates a temporary passive bonus as well. The Q ability sends a damaging chord at multiple enemies, and buffs the next basic attack of all nearby friendly heroes. Her W ability heals you and nearby allies, plus gives you each a temporary shield. Her E makes you all run faster, and most importantly, her ultimate ability is a skill shot that damages and stuns each enemy it hits, also reducing the cooldowns on your other abilities. She has a lot of sustain and supports your carry in a ton of ways, but if you can really coordinate with them, the moment you hit level 6 and get your ultimate, it is so fun to use the Flash Summoner spell to just teleport up and surprise stun the enemy lane and just kill them. The flexibility of Sona makes her an excellent support, but you can pivot and build ability power items if your team is lacking in damage, and you do alright if you don't need to also do that much healing. She's pretty easy to play, which is definitely a bonus for me, and considering most of the time I'm playing this game I queue with someone else, it's great to pair up with them in a lane. But Summoner's Rift, the traditional 5v5 map, is not the only way to play the game. I already mentioned I won't be talking about teamfight tactics, but I do want to touch on a couple of other game modes. There's ARAM, which means all random, all middle, which is exactly what it sounds like. You get a random champion, though there's a reroll and swapping system if you get someone you really don't like, and you can just fight against another team of 5 in a single lane. As someone who's not familiar with a lot of the newer champions, this is an interesting way for me to discover new stuff and not worry about whether or not things go even remotely well. My favorite game mode for League of Legends, however, is no longer in the game. I know that it wasn't especially popular, which is why it was removed, but I very much liked Twisted Treeline, the old 3v3 map they had. I am a strong proponent for Twisted Treeline. I miss it. I liked that map was smaller, games were shorter, and each player felt more individually impactful. I felt like teamfights were more interesting too, because it was harder to focus down just one person at a time when you only have 3 people attacking instead of 5. So there was more back and forth, and getting the perfect start to each fight was less important, although obviously it still mattered. You definitely lose some nuance and other things compared to Summoner's Rift, and the typical role system kind of goes out the window, but I was very okay with those trade-offs when gaining tactical control points like the vision altars in the middle of the map. And really, I thought the map just looked way cooler. Join me tomorrow as I talk about my 94th favorite game, where of all the compelling characters, the antagonist is one of the best in a storied franchise.